Wow, that's long.
Well, you have a toxic side that you keep at bay, don't you?
I won't expose you just because I feel like I exposed you throughout this talk
I mean,
already.
you could keep
Mm.
going. I mean, you're on a hot streak. I mean, I don't know anymore.
Hi guys, it's Yoon and welcome to episode 5 of Toxic Talks. And today I'm with one of my best friends and they're going to help me introduce a new topic. So, introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
um, Hi, I'm Gabriel. I'm a Christian and I'm Filipino by birth. Huh. Why did I say I'm Filipino by birth? Well, I'm not actually really connected into the culture, so I can't probably call myself like a full Filipino. But I was born in the Philippines, and both my parents are Filipino. And
Mhm.
people will not think that I'm a Filipino instantly, also because if I were to stand up right now, which I'm not gonna do, I would look like I'm 6'5" because I am 6'5". Wow. Yeah. I'm also a video editor. I edit a few of the videos on this channel. If you haven't seen, you should look at See You Soon. More on that later. Yes.
Yes, yes. So as you mentioned, he is actually my video editor. It's just recent. He started video editing for See You Soon. That's one of the videos that he has done. The very first video that's uploaded. He has been working on other videos, so that's that. Also, disclaimer I'd like to add is so today's topic is about friends. Now, if anything hurts you and if you are our friend, I just want to explain that it may not be towards you, but if it does hurt you, you might want to recheck certain things. So I don't want you guys to assume that we're talking about you, even if it might be related. That may just be a you thing and not saying it's invalid. But yeah, what we say does not reflect how we are with our friends. Maybe it be past or might be present. So take things with a grain of salt once again. Like everything that we say, it's a discussion. Not everything is set in stone. These are based on our experiences. So, of course, to talk more about Gabe and I's friendship, do you want to start with talking about a fond memory, how we met, and everything like that?
Well, I guess we could say where it started technically. I'll just briefly mention that.
Uh huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
the that being the fact that we've seen each other around for like 5 years. What, 2016?
Mm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it's
about
five.
5 years.
Five
About
years.
5 years. Yeah, but our friendship really started last year. So I'm fresh. I'm fresh.
Uh huh.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
fresh meat.
Yeah, I'm fresh meat. To be eaten by her shark friends. I don't know. We'll see. But how we met, she posted an invitation. I'm not sure if you guys saw it. An invitation on her Instagram story. Open invitation to set up a Zoom meeting with her. I took it, and I'm glad to be where I am right now. One of her best friends. She's also one of my best friends. That's been a blessing, a real blessing. And
Well, you have been a blessing as well.
thank you. Um, I was also supposed to say one of my fondest memories. It was actually this year. This
Mm-hmm.
year,
I
she loves
wonder what
giving
that
gifts.
is.
Guess. You'll be able to guess.
Don't tell me.
It's a gift that you made for me. If you don't know Eunice, Eunice makes
Mm-hmm.
these amazing gifts for her friends. It's mind blowing. So, and this is the first time I've received something that well made. So, fond memory. Like, wow, people can actually do this for friends. Aw, that's so nice. Thank you so much, Eunice. Yeah. Um. Yeah. That's pretty much it for the introduction.
All right. So that's a bit of our friendship, and I guess I would have to say my side. No, there's nothing. No, I don't think anything's. I'm kidding. So adding on to what he said that we saw each other 5 years ago. the first time, the very first time, we both remember it, is that he was a player for a school, inter-school sports event, and I was a journalist in my school, and he was a varsity basketball player, and he was against our team. And I just remembered him blocking a lot of the shots, and I hated him for him. Like, actually hated him for it. And here we are 5 years later. Apparently, he is one of those people I'm very fond of because he is my best friend. Anyway, if you guys have seen my Instagram, if you have followed, he is mentioned a lot because I do love talking about my best friends. Anyway, thank you for the kind words. I did not expect that. But yeah, he's also a really great friend. So now we've talked about our friendship. Let's move on to the topic, a brief discussion. So we're going to talk about toxicity within friends. And we vaguely talked about, not vaguely, we talked about different relationships in different episodes. First, it's our relationship with ourselves, relationship with our family, and now with friends. I think you guys can get the flow as to what I'm doing. So we gradually go out of our inner circle towards outside. So that is the topic for today. That's the main theme. Now, I want to ask you, as I've been asking a lot of my guests, what is toxicity for you?
This question. Well, for me, something becomes toxic when you start trading your efforts at the cost of your own mental health. That's what I define as toxic.
Mm-hmm. I see. That makes sense. So even if you're doing something quote quote good, if it's not, if it's hurting your mental health, it's toxic.
Yeah.
So that's one way to see it. That it toxicity is something that hurts your mental health directly. It's something, and I agree with that. Hmm. So that actually also just agrees with everything else that previous people have said. That people, when you are disrespected, like Kyla said, that affects your mental health because you feel that you deserve those things, being disrespected at times, and how at times people who are ignorant, so on. I love how everything is like matching up the meaning of toxicity. Now, since we're talking about friends, I have to ask, have you had toxic friends? Be honest.
Hmm. I want to talk about two different situations. Um,
Okay.
yeah. First, of how I was kind of being somewhat of a toxic friend, I guess. It was more toxic to
Mm-hmm.
myself, but I assumed that my friends were the ones that were toxic. Let me explain that.
Uh-huh.
So, I think right now that they were just being themselves. Why? Because they were
Mm-hmm.
younger than me. I'm talking about friends that I made in grade 7 and grade 8. Long story short, I was 2 years above my peers, usually on average. So if they were 11 and 12, I would be 14.
Mm-hmm.
If they were
Mm-hmm.
14, 15, I would be 16, 17. Um, because
Uh-huh.
I was homeschooled and I transitioned back into regular school, but I wasn't on pace and
Issues came
yeah, yeah.
in the
Um,
way. Yeah.
yeah. So going back to the story, grade 7, um, I didn't realize that they were on a different wavelength. When they saw me, this giant 14-year-old, tall, um, foreign kind of, um,
Dark and handsome? I'm kidding.
nah, he was light and charming, back then. Um,
Wow.
yeah,
Love that confidence. Okay. Continue
he
on.
Well, he actually often shared his deep thoughts about a lot of things. Like he would just talk out loud because
Mm-hmm.
he didn't he thought everyone would just be interested in that sort of thing. He found out that they weren't, and he felt kind of alienated because all they would talk about with him was about his height, was about his deep
Mm-hmm.
thoughts, like how deep and how interesting they were, but they wouldn't engage conversation with him. Um, and they would also talk about how innocent he seemed.
Mm.
where this gets toxic is that innocent part. The reason why they would talk about how innocent I seemed to be was because for the entire grade 7 and 8, I pretended to be innocent, like unaware of a lot of terms that I'd lived under a rock, that I didn't know what dirty references meant,
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't know what bad words were, that I didn't know what bad words in Filipino were because I went to Filipino school, and for a while, like most of grade 8 especially, um, most of my long conversations with people wouldn't be about deep thoughts, wouldn't be about life, wouldn't be about school, except math. But they would usually be about things that my innocent eyes, didn't understand. Like, what does this word mean? How do you use this? You want me to tell this person these words? Um, and I thought that I was forming connections with those people because it would be a long, extended conversation. To the point where when I started hearing people talk about me, like, I don't think he's really innocent. I heard someone whisper that at one point in time. And me, like, my unhealthy self at this point in time, where I thought, this is my only way to connect to people. And that's the only way that they'll find me interesting, that they'll laugh with me, that they'll talk with me. Um, I felt attacked. I thought, wait, my whole world's gonna crumble if they find out that I'm not innocent. Like, um,
Mm-hmm.
that was because I thought that they wouldn't see me for who I was. I thought that they were toxic, but really I was just the one being toxic. I wasn't the one that was able to go down to their level and understand where they were coming from. And that's one of the things that I want to talk about toxic as friends. I thought they were toxic. In reality, I was the toxic one, and I buried my own grave.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I do
Mm-hmm.
have toxic friends. I have met toxic friends. And they were toxic. Well, the recurring theme that I could see in my toxic friends was that they would put other people's happiness in the center of it all, and that's just so sad because it was to the degree that they were losing themselves in it. They'd be fighting
Mm-hmm.
against their friends that disagreed with them. They'd be fighting against their family. It was hard to hear that from this one Filipino friend that I knew. Um, they were fighting against themselves at a point in time. It they were questioning themselves. It was so hard to like hear. I did have toxic friends, and it's it's it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a real thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's a first that I've heard this story. Well, it is natural. We relatively just became best friends, but thank you for sharing. I think that takes a lot because admittedly that is quite for me that's like a vulnerable part of you that you wouldn't like naturally share unless but for this topic, I guess. So um something that I wanted to commend you is that you did end up learning that you were the toxic one. And I think you brought something up that is a toxic trait in a friend where it's a toxic mindset that you have to pretend to be something that you are not to have friends. That's something that I got from what you were explaining was like, oh, that is a toxic mindset. And that it should never like it's understandable in a sense. Like I understand where you were coming from, but there's always a different way to make friends. There's always going to be a group that will accept you. And I think I want to emphasize that to those who are watching. Do not do not change yourself just to be liked. If you are gonna change yourself for the better, it's because you want to be a better person, not because you want to be a more likable person. It's not don't make your intentions on others as much. So I want to emphasize that because a lot of people have done that. I would say I did that at one point. I wouldn't say I pretended to be innocent, but rather I would pretend to be nice at one point. So people do believe this is a toxic trait that I did had. Now I am generally nice. You guys can counter me if you think I'm really just a mean person. Go ahead. But at first I was a person that was mean. Like I would have mean thoughts, but then what would come out would be nice words. So that was something that I did before because I wanted to be likable. I wanted to be this person that everyone felt nice with. Oh, she compliments this, that. And later on, I realized how fake that was. And it's actually just really hard to also keep up like an act. It actually really is hard. So ever since then, I decided personally to not ever be fake. So when I am sad, when I am mad, I actually do show it. I do control the amount though. That's something that I do because it's toxic when somebody puts this emphasis that this is who I am, let me be. That's not fair on other people. Like you're asking other people to adjust to you when in fact that's so unfair. Like there should when in a relationship it goes both ways. Whatever kind of relationship it is, you're supposed to both sacrifice something and also help each other out. So yeah. About the second part that you said that you have toxic friends that aim to satisfy their happiness or like other
Uh,
people's happiness.
they put other people's happiness at the center of it.
Happiness
Yes.
center of it. So uh-huh. So I would like to make it more specific. Your answers are correct, but like rather toxic friends as in they personally affected you. From what
Ah,
I see, these two are like kind of external, if you get what I mean.
I
It's
see.
so for you, you see them as you're saying that they're toxic friends in the sense they have this toxic traits that make them toxic. But if I look at it, people would argue, but that's actually so nice. So these people are helping other people to aim their happiness. And and as well, both of us being Christians, it's something that could be misunderstood as to us is that it's a selfless act, which is something we're encouraged to do at times. So the question will be there. So that's toxic, apparently, putting somebody else's um desires above our own. I think there's a balance to it. There are times that you have to give way, stuff like that. But to say overall it's toxic, I think that's kind of unfair. But I get what you were coming from, though.
There's one instance of a toxic friend that has directly hurt me. Um,
Mm.
but I just wanted to clarify what I was saying. They put
Mm-hmm.
other people's happiness in the center of it all to the degree where they were losing themselves in it. This also relates to like my
Okay.
definition of toxicity. What is toxic?
Mm-hmm.
When you trade an effort and you lose yourself. You lose a part of yourself when it costs you your mental health to trade that effort in. Just wanted to clarify that.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, the people that I've talked to that are toxic, they haven't been toxic towards me necessarily. They've been toxic to other friends. But
Mm-hmm.
specifically for the person that was toxic to me, how you want to know how that worked? How they were toxic to me?
How?
This friend of mine that was toxic to me, why I defined it as toxic. It was toxic for them, and it's also toxic for me because after our conversations, after our arguments, after our fights, actually, it was heated debates. It was a lot of things thrown around verbally, on text. I would find myself losing a part of myself. I'd be questioning. I was the one at fault, right? I was the one that did this. I was actually the cause of all of this mess. It would bite at my self-confidence, my self-esteem, and my self-worth. I I thought that I thought that I had done something terrible. It was my fault for initiating that at first. And that
Mm-hmm.
was toxic because I thought that we had agreed to not to avoid each other, to not talk to each other, until we both cooled down, until we both were able to have
Mm.
a good discussion, until we both were able to at least talk about it if we did want to stay friends after. all of that. And what was really toxic, I don't know if this was my fault, but they kept saying that they had changed, and they kept showing at different points in time, at least signs that I thought they had changed. They were able to be with new friends, new people, and be happier, so it seemed. And since we were part of a mutual friend group chat, we'd bump into each other there when we were both online, and it would usually end in an argument whenever both of us were talking an opinion about anything that was happening on the group chat. That was toxic. And this would go on for like 6 months. Um,
Wow, that's long.
yeah, it was a really hard place. But
Mm-hmm.
just want to segue into what helped me deal with that, what helped me get out of it. Um, I would like to thank the Lord because at that point in time, I was learning how to grow closer to Him, how to cling on to Him, how to really like lean into and trust Him for strength, for wisdom, for answers, for identity, for confidence, and sometimes that came in the form of me personally reading the Bible. When I would read the Bible, I was going through Psalms at that point in time. Um, and the Psalms, some of them were really encouraging for me. And the other way that this manifested was through my best friends. Prior to before you and I became best friends, um, these were my other best friends, and God used them to guide me to passages in the Bible. So it all goes back to the Bible. And by God's grace, I was able to get through that tough time.
Amazing. Praise God for that. It is amazing when you do have good friends that help you with a toxic friend. So to sum it up, from what I see, it became toxic because on both sides you were as well a toxic friend, they were as well as toxic friend, because there was not this sense of respecting each other's point of views, your opinions, the either side. And like that, relating to what Kyla said, when you don't have a certain amount of respect for people's beliefs, opinions, or boundaries, this is where toxicity came in. And that's why you guys, from what I've understood from what you said, is that you argued a lot about this, my side, your side, stuff like that. So it's which is a very common thing, though. I don't think a lot of people will think that's toxic if it only happens once. That's good, but it could happen a lot of times. And now, I guess it's safe to say, with the question I'm about to ask, is how do you know they were toxic? So you've mentioned God, so of course he played a part with like revealing or opening your eyes regarding people who were toxic. But how was it at first? So did God immediately show you that these people were toxic, or did you personally start feeling, oh wait, I don't like being treated this way? What was your indicator?
Actually, my indicator didn't come until after the whole thing happened. I didn't realize just how toxic
Mm-hmm.
that specific thing was um, until in 2020 when I was talking about it
Mm-hmm.
to a few other friends, and they told me that that's toxic. So
I
now when I look back to it,
see.
I realize that yes, that's toxic.
So sometimes we don't always see it, right? We don't always immediately see that it's toxic, because sometimes toxic seems normal. That's also one of the lies we believe. It's a deception that things are should be what it is. But this, I believe, it's the lack of information. It's because we lack the complete experience of what a healthy relationship would be in a general sense. Of course, all relationships are unique, but they all share the same core values that make it healthy. just because they're unique doesn't necessarily mean that it's different in health. They're all healthy with the same core values, stuff like that. So I think that's one of the things that we miss out. We It becomes toxic when we don't have the same core values with certain people. It's because, oh, I don't it could be toxic if we were, let's say, if let's say with food, which is something we both debate about, is that if that could all actually be a really toxic conversation if we were that heavily like strong about what kind of food we love to eat, but we have this sense of respect. We understand like, okay, she has this kind of taste buds, I have this kind of taste buds. So yeah, a level of respect really does play a part. It's part of boundaries. Now, you have friends that are toxic, you identified it, but the question is, do you call them out immediately, or does it take you like a while? Like, okay, let's see first. Let's see if it's toxic after a few times of observing, or do you instantly know that it's already toxic? Like, do you immediately call them out?
Well, first off, I think it's easier. At least this is my opinion. I think it's easier to see
Mm-hmm.
toxicity in someone else's lives than it is to see the toxicity in your own. So, from my experience, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's easier for me to see that and for me to feel like, oh, I need to call this out. So when I do see something and I do think it is toxic,
Mm-hmm.
I do call it out. But I try to do it in a somewhat, at least now, a somewhat loving manner. Before I used to call it out, and I thought I was doing it
Mm-hmm.
helpfully and lovingly, but actually I was just being so blunt and intruding. It was not the best way
Mm-hmm.
to handle it before. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but also, to clarify on when I decide to call it out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if it happens more than once, if it happens more than
Mm-hmm.
once without any remorse or regret at all,
Mm-hmm.
and the person like refuses to realize that it was wrong, I would say that that's toxic. The concept would be bounced off of the idea of respect, right? Respecting one another's core
Mm-hmm.
values. So if you have different core
Mm-hmm.
values and core beliefs, you don't force the other one to change for you or to
Mm-hmm.
crumble for you because you think yours is better,
Mm-hmm.
because that's toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Instead, like yeah, if you see them if you see them stomping on disrespecting the other persons without regret or remorse, yeah, that's more than once, more than once,
Mm-hmm.
and they refuse to realize that, oh, I can't just stomp on someone else's core values. That's what I think is toxic. Just to clarify.
Mm-hmm. All right. All right. Okay, so you do call them out. However, something that I noticed that, so let's say between you and a friend, you wouldn't be able to call it out as much because you're in it, right? That's how you explained
Hmm.
that. So it is a hard thing for you to call
If
out something
it's
that you can't see.
yes.
Okay. Which is why we're doing this for other people to also understand. Because even for me, a lot of us, if you guys have watched the previous episodes, a lot of the things that we do say is that our friends helped us realize it was toxic. So I do emphasize that you do choose the friends that you have. Choose friends that will help you, not break you down. So that's something, it's a reoccurring theme within this is having good friends. And there is a verse about that, that iron sharpens iron, and that's the basis is that you with friends is that you're helping each other up, you're sharpening each other, making each other better. Now, all right, so let's say you mentioned this a little bit that you would call them out, right? So that's just you simply like telling them, right? It's not you calling things off just yet. It's just you wanting to
Yeah.
say that. All right. So that brings me to the next question is, do you have a deal breaker? Like if someone did XYZ, would you cut them off as friends?
Well, I do indeed have a toxic deal breaker, but it's more general as a situation than as specific actions.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like if they're
Okay.
toxic and they're physically abusive, I would cut them off immediately. That's not something that I look for, like the different types of toxicity, and then I
Mm.
immediately. That's not my deal breaker. My deal breaker is
Uh-huh.
um, if they refuse to listen to anyone trying to help,
Mm-hmm.
anyone trying to anyone showing them that they're
Mm-hmm.
like, and it's not just refusing to see it once, it's refusing to ever
Mm-hmm.
see it, like um
Mm.
and not just refusing to see it ever. If it also affects me, it starts to affect me, like I'm in the blast radius just being their friend. Let's
Mm-hmm.
say they're toxic and I'm hanging out with the person they're toxic towards, and they start being toxic towards me because I'm hanging out with that friend. If I feel hurt like that
Hmm.
without doing like anything, I don't know, I don't think I did anything wrong.
Mm.
Um I would I would be upset with them. I would call them out. I would cut them off. But um
Mm-hmm.
I hope that I've made this clear for all of them. I I wish you would have been able to see how I did it, because I don't know. But I hope that I've made it clear to everyone in the past that my door would always be open if they have changed, if they were willing to change. Because I'd be down to restore the friendship
Uh,
if if they're looking for that after they've like
mm-hmm.
changed, after they've let the toxic
So,
airs.
to put it simply, it's you don't want to waste your time on people who are ignorant, people who are stubborn and ignorant in that sense when you combine the two. Because people who are ignorant could be taught if they're not stubborn just yet. But yeah, those if you combine those two things, because what you said is that people who refuse, people like have this strong sense of no. So those are stubborn people, people who don't want. But I just want to clarify this because it might be misunderstood. Is that but you would cut off someone though if they were abusive, right? This
Yes.
is not what you were looking for. It's not what you were looking for, but you would cut it off.
Yes.
All right. Just want to clarify that for people
Not
who
for
might
abusers.
misunderstand.
Yes.
No.
um.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's, I don't know. I feel like I have to differ. As you have known in our friendship lately, I have a lot of contrasting opinions. And I want to emphasize, just because we different opinions does not mean we can't get along. We get along really well. But for me, I would like to say I do have deal breakers as well. But I feel like for me it's really severe. It's more of this severe, it has to be so severe. It's like you, it also is a situation kind of thing. Like the severity of a certain situation defines it. But ultimately, because this is also something we both know as Christians, is that we're called to be forgiving. We're called to forgive 70 times 70 times. So, however, I do think that cutting off a person does not necessarily mean you hate them. That's different. Cutting off somebody is just for your mental health. And I'm not implying that you hate them. I'm just saying to clarify that for anyone who thinks that cutting off means you still hold a grudge. No, you cut them off because you want to keep you and them like safe from each other. Because admittedly, when somebody is toxic, toxicity is contagious because there's this feeling of wanting to have revenge in a sense. Like, let's say somebody treats you in a toxic way, there's this vibe of, oh, I'm gonna treat you toxic too because it's justified because you're toxic to me. So that it goes like that at times. So it is good to cut people off. But for me personally, I try not to do that anymore just because I do believe cutting people off is also another way of being toxic in a different sense. And this is something I think you guys have to leave a question for if you really want me to dive into it. Because if we were to dive into it right now, that will take so much time. But I'm saying there is an appropriate time to cut people off. But I also do believe cutting people off is also a toxic action in certain situations. Now, okay, so there are deal breakers. And I think actually the next question I was about to ask is similar, it's already tied, and you could just add more things. Is that how many times does a friend have to make the same mistake to consider it being a toxic behavior? Like, do you actually count it though? Is there like not like mentally like, oh, they did it once, twice? It's more of like, it just happens.
I guess I do count it, because
Mm.
I'm aware of what they've done. Just because I've forgiven them that one time doesn't mean I won't forget that they did it. And
Mm.
me as a person, just to clarify, I I I am still a very cautious person when finding friends, because I
Mm.
misunderstood people before, right? Um,
Mm. Mm.
I'm still somewhat cautious. So if ever I feel like, if ever I see them repeating something again, and I know that they've done it once before because I remember that they've done it once before, um,
Mm.
and I see that they still have the same attitude about it. They still have this same like closed, mm, unremorseful, like not regretful at all of what they've done,
Mm.
close-minded, um, to their like own toxicity. Um, that's when I would like register. Oh, that happened once before. Oh, it's happening. Oh no. So I guess I do
It's
count
a
it.
pattern.
Yes.
So something, of course, we are called to love, and we both know this first very well. There's this part, keep no record of wrongs. Would you say what you're doing, counting is keeping a record?
No. It's at least how I see it. I don't count it
Mm-hmm.
as keeping a record because I don't hold it against, like, I don't hate them for it. I don't hold it like
Mm-hmm.
they're a terrible person. Don't deal with them ever again. It's just rather I find it trying to protect myself. Oh, this happened before. I don't want to be in this kind of situation. I don't want to get hurt by this,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to keep conflicting with other people like this anymore. So,
So we would say you're aware of it, but when you actually talk to them, you wouldn't really talk to them like you've been doing this for such a long time, kind of like you wouldn't be condemning them for something they've done in the past.
no.
That's how. Well, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So regarding friends, of course, all of us has a certain level of toxicity. So the question I'm about to ask is more of the severe case. So are you still friends with people that were once toxic? Once toxic as in the very severity of it. Because even for me, at times, both of us, there are times we are toxic to each other. Sometimes there are times that when I have a bad day, I let it out on you, even though you understand that I'm having a bad day. That's still a toxic behavior. And sometimes when you're tired, you say the most upsetting of words. And I'm basically exposing my friendship with Gabe. But this is me saying that we both healthily worked through it. Um, so are you still friends with people that were once toxic? The very severe kind of toxic in every aspect kind.
The most toxic person that I can think of is that person that we were toxic for each
Mm-hmm.
other like 6 months.
Mm-hmm. The one you referred to.
Yeah. I'm
So
currently
you are
bare minimum friends with them right now.
bare minimum friends with them right now.
I wouldn't say we've
So,
gotten closer since then, but we are
mm-hmm.
friends.
I see. That's good, I guess. I mean, I'm very cautious too. It's more of you are aware that keeping them is allowing you to get hurt, right? It's still that, like, that is still a possibility.
Actually, I think we already resolved that issue because like they
Mm,
used to be toxic, but now they're not. I'm friends with them. I thought the question was
mm,
someone who is past toxic
mm,
and now is not. That's the only case that I can think of like that.
mm. I see. Okay. So of course we have friends that we believe can be better, right? We believe they can be better, they can become healthy, but how do we deal with them while they're being toxic? So the question is, what's a challenge when with dealing with a toxic friend? Is it a challenge to keep being accountable? Because as as a friend, we help each other, call each other out. Is that a challenge? Reminding them or sticking by them?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I'd say yes to both. Reminding them,
Mm-hmm.
sticking by them. Like there are a lot of cases where actually no, I'll talk about this one case. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they're not toxic to me, but rather they're
Mm-hmm.
in a toxic situation, kind of toxic to themselves, and also the relationships that they have with the friends
Mm.
they had. Um, that was toxic for them. Um, the hardest part about being friends with someone who has toxic relationships is honestly feeling like you're like you can't help, feeling like when you talk to them, they don't listen. Like, because you genuinely want to help them, you genuinely want them to see, and
Mm-hmm.
they appear to be listening, but their actions say otherwise. Um,
Mm.
that's really hard for me because I'm the kind of
So it
person that,
is a challenge.
yeah, it is a challenge. It's I'd like to think that it's much more so a challenge for me, and for anyone else, for you, for people like you, I think as well, because you want to help people, right? Right, right.
So I'll answer that afterwards. Are you done with your
Yeah, that's essentially it. I just really like helping people and seeing
essentially?
people that can't that
Mm.
don't get help. That's just hard for me to deal with.
Mm-hmm. So the challenging part is more of seeing them and they're not really listening. You're helping, you're trying. That's the challenge. Sticking by them, even when you see that there's no progress or it's so small that you can't see it. There could be that. That is really hard. Regarding that, I'm gonna expose Gabe again, but he has a hero complex. So it's not a bad thing, guys, people, but like he has that. Just to explain even further why he has this desire, it's really admirable. Though that's something that I appreciate about him. But to go back to your question, or like the for you to clarify if I was the same. Mm, for the most part, I like to believe I was, in the sense, how do I put this? I learned, for me, recently, I've been learning to take care of myself more because it is toxic, like you mentioned earlier, to put somebody's happiness above your own. So I was that kind of person. Although you didn't meet me at that time, I was like that to a very like extreme extent. And so back then I really did have a challenge of like, I want you to get better. I want you to like this and that. But then later on, it was toxic for me because it adds to your definition where you said mental health. It wasn't good for my mental health to put people's problems above mine. Because even when I felt helpless, I would still take, I would have sleepless nights just thinking about their own issues when in fact maybe they're not even thinking of it that heavily the way I was, because that's how heavy I would take people's burdens. But now I don't do it as much anymore. It's more of a constant, like, I'll pray for them, yes, but it's now that I have a deeper relationship with God, I just give it up to Him. I say, Lord, this is my burden. You take it. You know exactly how deeply I care for this person. So now it's not really a challenging thing because I have God helping me with it. He is giving me the amount of energy, the amount of love to give it to them. So it's limitless in that sense because He has no limit. So if He is my source of love for my friends, it never becomes a challenge, even if the person's toxic. It challenge, and this is what I mean by challenge, as in it's not super duper hard. It is a challenge, but it's not like challenging in the sense that I'm gonna give up. So I hope that clears out what you wanted me, to clarify. Anyway, so moving on to rather the healthy aspect. So of course we've discussed toxic friends, toxic traits and whatnot. So of course you learn that okay, this is toxic, so what is the opposite? It's basically healthy, right? So now how do you keep your friendships right now, your relationships with others healthy now that you know what toxic is? What are like boundaries that you set up? Do you have like golden rules that if like are non-negotiables? Like what's something that you do to keep your relationships healthy?
Well, one of the things I'm trying to implement, because I'm still learning about a lot of these things, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm still learning a lot in my walk with God. Um, but honestly, at least what I see a recurring theme in my healthiest relationships is that there's love, there's honesty,
Mm-hmm.
and there's openness. It's openness to hearing what the other person sees. They may not necessarily always be correct, but hearing what they see
Mm-hmm.
could help you realize, oh wait, I'm doing something that's actually not healthy. It's not good. It's not right. It's hurting other people. It could be hurting myself.
Mm-hmm.
Openness. Um, I think love goes a really long way. Love goes a really long way when you're loving others, when you're loving yourselves, when you're loving the people that you're in
Mm-hmm.
a relationship with, a friendship with. Um, when you're really treating them as you would treat yourself, um,
Mm-hmm.
it goes a long way. It goes a really long way, um, because you build each other up. And that's healthy. Because if toxic destroys,
Exactly.
then healthy would be to build up. Um,
Exactly.
yeah. Why I'm saying honesty is because I feel like honesty, openness, and love. Honesty is that you're able to be honest with them, to be able to tell them, or yeah, to be able to tell them if you think that
Mm-hmm.
something's wrong or something's amiss. Honesty and openness to be able to discuss that, healthily build each other up in love. Yeah, yeah, that's essentially it.
Simply, it's love. And love that is not, we'd say, subjective, because some people would have different, this is love to them. You doing this is love to them. Because friends will be like, you have to do this to show that you love me. And that
Ah.
could be. So I just want to mention that because I experienced it. I experienced people being like, "Hey, if you don't do this, I don't feel like you love me." And for some may think it's like just the typical just teasing around or anything, but if it happens often, something I learned is actually quite toxic in a sense. Like, so wait, I have to do this just so you know that I love you? Can't I do it this way, do it that way? So I believe that love should be very objective in that sense, not the type where like, oh no, this is what love is to me. Then if that's the case, then anything can be love, right? Even the things that we call toxic will end up being called love, and that's the case at times. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, since we are best friends, I guess we could also just add more stuff that helps with our ways of dealing with the times we are toxic towards each other. Is there anything you want to expose me for that you think is toxic and how you deal with it? I'm fine with it. We're here to help other people.
You have to
We
help
have
me
a
out
healthy
here.
relationship, but the thing is kasi you have a toxic mindset talaga. You always call me out to be toxic. You always call cynical Eunice out, which is the toxic side of me.
Ah. 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 Expose you. Oh
You
yeah.
could cut that out part if you don't want to. We could just cut that part out.
No, I want to talk about cynical unis now.
No, but I know. Okay, I mean, I kind of mentioned it a while ago. But okay, right. So we start from when I'm gonna cut it. I will do the flow of this thing. I'll help you out. No worries. I'll continue doing that. But go on.
Toxic, something. Ah.
Trait. Okay, it's a trait, not my entire being.
Well, you have a toxic side that you keep at bay, don't you? Yeah. See, there are rough days. We are great friends. You agree we're great friends. We are great. We're best friends. But I do get on your nerves at the worst times sometimes. And that brings out a side of you that just can't be loving and graceful anymore. It's just too tired. It's just too tired. And
Yeah.
the way you vent out to me and you call me out for a lot of things. In the moment, super owie, super toxic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
I recall.
you know how to attack my insecurities. You know how to attack my weaknesses. But honestly, by God's grace, I
That's
feel
my
like
toxic trait, guys.
yep. But by God's grace, honestly, I don't feel like I've been like permanently damaged by that side of you. I was able to be the loving, the graceful one. Yes, thank God, thank God. Like praise the Lord. Like actually, like He's able to like at those times provide me with the strength, the grace, the love to be that bigger person and just take the punches.
And the patience.
And the patience.
The amount of patience, yes. Because I'll admittedly expose myself because I know who I am at the end of the day. I just know this is my ugly side. Is that at times when I'm in being this state, I would say stuff to Gabe, and I'll be like, "I'm gonna go now, bye," and it's toxic in a sense, especially because Gabe tends to, well, you tend to just start thinking of the worst thing if the person doesn't reassure you, right? And me doing that is really toxic. And this is what he meant that I attack his insecurities, I attack his weaknesses, I push his buttons. So, what a lot of people think about me is that I am somebody who takes up so much information about a person. And I don't think people understand how that also works with weaknesses as well. And that for me personally, I praise God that I've been able to control myself. It's because I do have the ability to destroy people based on the amount of information I have. Because it is a thing that could be extremely toxic if I were to allow it, especially on days I'm so mad at the world. I might just start spewing out everything on the internet saying this person did this to me and this because that's how hyper vigilant I am regarding my relationships. And but yeah, I'm really grateful that you don't, hold it against me. But yeah, I won't expose you just because I feel like I exposed you throughout this talk already.
I mean, you can keep going. I mean, you're on a hot streak. I mean, I don't know anymore.
But I guess so to you guys who are listening in, thank you for listening. But yeah, so Gabe and I, we personally just openly actually do this. We actually do openly ask each other, what am I doing something toxic right now? Am I hurting you right now? And that's something that you guys should also ask your friends. Like start that conversation. And if it does hurt, it's natural, but you could also request certain things. Like when I say something to Gabe, he requests me to say it in a different wording, and it's not so bad, especially if it gets the message across in a more gentle and loving way, then I do it. And I also request it out of him too, because we both have a certain value of words. So we both request that. So when it comes to conversations like this, because it can get ugly, but I do encourage you guys to have this conversation with your friends because it's really essential. It helps relationships. And I guess one of the downsides would be it might start a conversation with someone you thought you had a healthy relationship with, and apparently it was toxic, and you might lose them. That could happen because I've had these conversations with certain people, and I did lose them at one point because we just realized, oh, wait, we don't actually help each other then. We're both like this. So that will be painful, but I think it's better that you find out and you end up just moving on. Like you realize sooner that, okay, they're actually not a person that I want to keep in my friend group. And that's, I think, for us in our 20s, I think we now understand the meaning where you have to really choose your friends. When we were younger, it was like, I want to be friends with everyone, that kind of idea that
Mm.
the more the merrier in that sense. But actually, here, the lesser it's merrier. Like when it's close, it's very intimate in a good sense. It's not exclusive. No, it's just more you are able to control who knows what of you, and it's not bad to just have a few close friends. So yeah, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And is there anything you would like to share? Do you want to tell them that they could contact you if you need to like edit a video? Is that something you want to promote? But the floor is yours to promote yourself, sell yourself.
Whoa, okay, but I'm not selling myself for cheap, y'all. I'm expensive. I am a print. Well, first of all, if you guys do want to reach out to me, to talk to me, I don't use Facebook, at least not as often as before. So I highly recommend my Instagram, link in the description, Geitkrasser, Gitcrasher, link in the description. Yeah. You guys can also message me on Discord. I'll put that username in the description. I won't do it. She will do it. In the description. Yes. Now I want to bring attention to the potential sponsor of this video, okay, or of these videos, of all the videos that she's ever gonna make and has already made. It's YouTube, okay? It's YouTube. YouTube is the potential sponsor here. So like, comment, subscribe, share, hit the bell. You know what to do, guys. You know how to do it, guys. I know you know how to do it. You've been doing it. Do it. Follow her socials. Her socials will be linked all down there. Follow Toxic Talks, all down there. All of it down there. I'm plugging this because I'm the editor and I want to get paid now. So I'm poor. If you want me to get paid in money so I can do more things in my life,
Fufu, they don't know that you're not getting paid. Remember.
Anyway, that's it. That's all for now. Yeah, that's it.
That is it, guys. So I actually have 5 best friends, and he is one of them. And I have to emphasize that because I love all my best friends equally. And also, you guys have to also stay tuned with the next episodes where my other best friends will guest as well. And you guys will also I would like to believe you can look at my friendships and have it like as a something that you can be inspired by. Do not make our friendships a standard because all friendships are unique. But if you have something to like compare to what is healthy in that sense, then you might just like look at my friends, my friendships. You could just actually look at all of these episodes and just see my friendship with everyone. You can see how even as a Christian, I'm able to relate with different beliefs with my other friends that don't share the same beliefs as me, because this is how when you become healthy, or when you intentionally want to have healthy relationships, beliefs do not they don't really become a factor of how healthy a relationship is. It's not the basis of it. Me not be If my friends not having the same beliefs as me does not make them toxic, and it doesn't make me toxic for not having the same beliefs with them. So you guys, I encourage you, if you want to go back and just observe our friendship, you guys can see how genuine we really are towards each other. Anyway, thank you once again, Gabe, for your time. Funny guys, he actually talk all the time because he is my video editor. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Make sure to check out my socials, my friend's socials, and Toxic Talk socials in the description below. Once again, I encourage you to ask questions that will be answered on that 19th episode. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you are notified when the next episode goes up. As you wait, you can check out all my YouTube videos on my channel. Take care always and stay safe. Bye!